Wow. I don't know about you guys, but that just got me so fired up. Welcome, everybody, to a one-of-a-kind experience, X Games Legends panel celebrating the 25th anniversary of X Games. I'm Jack Mitrani, former professional snowboarder turned host of the X Games, and I could not be more humbled and honored to be joined by some of the biggest names in action sports. We've got Tony Hawk, the first man to ever land a 900 on a skateboard. He's got 10 X Games gold medals. No big deal. It's looking good. We've got one
Thank
of the
you.
pioneers, oh, for sure. We got one of the pioneers of freestyle motocross, Travis Pastrana. Stuck the first
Hey guys.
flip on a dirt bike. Proud owner of 11 X Games gold medals. No big deal, Travis. And of course, we got Matt Hoffman, six-time X Games medalist, landed the first ever no-handed 900 on a BMX bike, which is a trick that's honestly so hard that it's only been done one time at X Games since Matt did it in 2002. So what a legendary panel of guests. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today, celebrating the anniversary. Unfortunately, we didn't get Salema Masakela. He had some sort of scheduling conflict, so we're all just going to have to work together to talk a little bit more and replace Salema on here.
No, I was thinking with Sal.
I think I can bring the same energy as Salema, but we'll try.
Exactly.
No, that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, if Sal's going to be on, I'm going to only have to say like 2 words.
Yeah, exactly. We got our work cut out. Thanks a lot, Salema. But hopefully we can chat with him soon. But let's get this started just talking about the early days of X Games. We'll start with you, Tony. What was like your first impression of the X Games?
It was pretty scattered. I mean, it was cool because skating was in a lull of popularity and there were very few competitions. There were almost no vert competitions. And so when I heard that ESPN was going to do a contest that included skateboarding, I was hyped. When we got there, it was a little confusing because it was like rock climbing and bungee jumping and eco challenge. And there were all these things that I didn't really connect to skateboarding. But at the same time, we had a venue, we had a good ramp, we had a crowd. I mean, we were just excited to have some sort of platform to be skating again, especially on TV.
Was there any other sports out there that you were just like, whoa, sky surfing, cool? Like, did you become a fan of anything, or you're just like, I'm staying in my lane?
Yeah, I mean, I was already connected pretty closely to BMX, especially with Matt. Matt and I had been riding together for years before that.
Sure.
And we rode the same terrain. So that was where I connected. Inline skating was definitely big then, and I knew some of them because we'd all just did shows together.
Right.
So that was sort of I guess those are my disciplines that I identified with. I mean, I appreciated all the other ones. I just didn't really associate them with skating. Everything was extreme then. So
right.
We were not really ones to try to establish that word.
Sure.
We were sort of fighting it, and I think that's they felt that, and they changed it to X Games the next year.
That's awesome. Oh, I didn't realize they changed it so quick. They're like, okay.
Yeah, there was one. Am I correct in that, Matt? There was one Extreme Games.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was someone they couldn't copy something legally. They had to change it. But
oh, thank God. Blame it on legal. What about you, Matt? What was your first impressions?
Mine?
5. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of in the same boat. You know, of course, I was had a big admiration for all the skaters, and I knew them and looked up to them and rode with them and did demos with them all over the world and stuff. So we were already a pretty close group. And then, yeah, bungee jumping. Yeah, it was it was good comic, you know, comic relief. But then skydiving and stuff. I've been jumping out of planes since I was 16 years old. So I kind of related to those guys, and so I tried to sneak in the plane a couple times, but they kicked me out.
Oh wait, what?
But yeah, what else was there?
I mean, yeah. You won the first ever BMX vert contest, so there was that. No big deal.
Yeah, that's right. Because we end up utilizing the skateboard ramp too, because ours was made with, they put a bunch of sand in the paint, and so it was kind of nice for doing like fakey tricks and stuff. But if you ever crashed, it was like crashing on grip tape, and it was like the worst horror you could think of. You just stuck and just smashed in. You're like, wow, that really happened. then I had it planted a lot of fear in me, and I was like, I can't roll in on this ramp anymore. So
get me out of here. Take me on the next plane. I'm jumping out. See you next year. What about you, Trav?
Dude, okay, so I was all in extreme games, X Games. I didn't care. I was like this kid in a candy shop, and my mom, she was a flight attendant, and she comes back. She had heard about this for the first time, and it's like, you're never gonna believe this. They're having everything. It's Matt Hoffman. It's Tony Hawk. Like, she was such a big fan of everyone on this panel, really, and just so cool for us to. I mean, shoot, the first time sky surfing. Dude, I didn't care. Bungee jumping with kayaks, I was all in. Like, I was a kid that never stayed inside. I never watched TV. I watched from the start of X Games to the end of X Games. Wow. My cousin, Special Greg, and I, like, it was the only thing as two, like, ADHD kids that, like, never watched anything. We were glued to the TV. And it was just really, really cool. I actually did a whole project, book reports on the sky surfing guys. And with that little kid at, like, 12, was calling everybody up. And for me, I mean, BMX was always really what I looked up to. I was a wannabe BMXer, but I need like front suspension because every time I rode a BMX bike, I just eat crap over the bars and pretty much got knocked out. So watching Matt at that first year was really, really awesome for me. I was never technical enough for skateboarding, but definitely cool to kind of see how everything was coming together. And for me, I just thought, you know, it wasn't about cool or not cool. It was just like, there's a platform for alternative sports, action sports, extreme sport, for us to potentially do what we love to do and be seen on TV. And that was before motorcycles were in. So, I mean, Biker Sherlock, shoot, I was a fan of everything.
I could see you.
Oh, that's right, downhill too.
Yeah.
I could totally see you watching X Games and being like, I need a plane, I need a kayak, I need all these different tools.
Yeah, how old were you then?
Sign me up. Yeah, how old were you?
Yeah, I think 12, about 11, 12.
Wow, you were 11 or 12. No way.
Crazy. And Tony and Matt, I mean, the fact that it was on TV, did that like give you guys more motivation to like step up for not only yourselves, but just like this opportunity to put the sport on the map? Or was it just like, let's just go check this out and see what this is all about?
In my case, it was a little bit of both. I think that I knew that we were going to be seen by a much broader audience than just a skate crowd, which is basically the only people that watch skate events up to that time were hardcore skaters. So when we knew we had more of a mainstream audience, I just felt like it wasn't that we were trying to sanitize what we were doing, but I felt like we should show the best of what we can do, and in the best light. And I felt like when we did that, we would rise above the noise of all the other sort of fringe sports. Which I think did happen, but their programming was a little, you know, we were all, I don't want to say cheesy, but just not really in tune with how we do things. And but I do think that after the second year is when we kind of found a groove, and the mainstream audience appreciated it a lot more. And I do feel like, especially BMX and skateboarding, rose above that noise.
Did you guys get involved after the first year? Was it just like, all right, here's great first attempt, experiment. Now here's what you guys need to do to kind of like be cool?
They did. They did actually. They asked for our feedback. Do you remember that, Matt? They had like a athlete panel for a couple of years. We got invited to go actually it was sort of a getaway weekend. And we were invited to talk to all the heads of X Games, and they listened, but also they had a good platform to explain themselves about what they require, what they're obligated to do in terms of programming and sponsorship, and they can't flood it with a bunch of names that people don't know if they don't think they're going to perform well. So, you know, we heard what they said, but we were still pretty cavalier in the sense that we wanted to be represented more authentically.
Matt, were you there for that discussion too? You were at that panel?
Yeah, I was there, and then Jack Mitrani and Ron Simio, they flew out to my house and met with me there also, and yeah, it was definitely a clash of different cultures, you know, from the bike, skateboard, and then just the production television talent, but there was there's still a similar passion. Those guys were really, I mean, they weren't just doing it for a job. They were doing it because they really wanted to make a difference and do something great. So that's kind of where I think on that panel and whenever they flew out to my house, that's what I related to. And I was like, yeah, I think we, there needs to be somewhat of a liaison between our two worlds and stuff. But yeah, I could see playing ball with you guys or whatever they call it.
Was it all sorts of different athletes after the first year in a panel, or was it just you guys, like skating and BMX?
No, they had representative from each sport.
Wow. Was there like a clash between what everybody's opinions were from like all the different sports?
I think the only clash I saw there were a few representatives that thought they were severely underpaid.
Oh wow!
In terms of prize money.
Interesting.
They fought hard for more prize money, and I agreed with them to an extent. It was the best prize money we had ever seen in a skateboard event, so I felt okay about that. But there were accusations that they were making a lot more money with the advertising and programming, and that they should be giving us $1 million in prize money and things like that. So it was a little combative, but they every year, to their credit, they increased the prize money.
That's amazing. I wish I could go back in time and sit at that table and just hear those early discussions. And I also wish that we could just somehow put 11-year-old Travis in that room and just have him go off about it.
I think 11-year-old Travis would have been bored to tears.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we've all kind of become perma 11-year-olds.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some of the greatest moments that you guys experienced at X Games. And we'll start with Trav, since you weren't so involved in 95. Let's start with the double backflip, August 4th, 2006. What was like the full backstory leading up to that? Did you know you were going to do it that day?
Dude, I can still go back to Ruel Eriksson trying a double backflip, dropping in. I mean, when I was still like watching this, and then Dave Mira, I can remember San Francisco X Games. I skipped my practice. That was at the same time as his practice. I heard from Steve Astapin and some of the guys that he was going to try a double backflip in practice. So literally didn't even ride to watch him do a double. So for me, a double was something that was like just experiencing that and wanting to be that guy that could do one. Ruel didn't make it. He landed on his face pretty hard. Dave did land his. But even back to Chad Keggy in the first X Games, the bicycle dirt jump, and looking back, it wasn't as big as I remembered it as a kid, but it was like 20 times bigger than any dirt jump I'd ever seen. And Keggy goes up and just they had like no sponsors, like Road Warrior style, just launches this huge backflip, lands, and the jump sucked. And just straight over the bars. And, and then even going back to so I know it's supposed to, I'll get to the double backflip for me, but
sure.
One of my greatest moments at X Games was as a kid. I come in at 15 years old, and the athlete pass got me, I just showed my bag. I was on the skateboard ramp for skaters, and I was up there for all of the vert, and I was the first guy watching TJ Lavin and Nyquist drop in. I was like, this is awesome. So I just felt like that was just and then it said athlete, which my dad was like, athletes, you guys don't know anything about being athletes. So full circle, 2006 was kind of what I felt was kind of like the pinnacle of, you come up and all of a sudden we can do flips on dirt bikes, and the Carey Harts and the Metzgers and the Deegan rivalry. And then it was that it just kind of not plateaued a little bit, but they're like, oh, you can't do anything else. Chuck Carruthers just did the body varial, and then you got the guys on the vert ramp that night. You got Keggy and Robinson were talking about doing a double flare for the first time, which got landed that night too. So there's so much intensity there. I'm a tenth of a second down on Colin McRae, who's my absolute rally god, who's on my team, and I'm trying to switch to rally, and my team's like, do not hurt yourself. You're sitting third after the first round. You're sitting a tenth of a second down, because the first year was the whole rally. And my best event was after rally, which was going to be freestyle. They're like, look, take your bronze, race your hardest that you can against Colin, because this is your one chance to show the world that you're not going to crash out, that you actually can drive a car competitively against the best guys in the world. So I got all those guys telling me not to. I got ESPN crew, they got Trent cameraman is following my mom everywhere. I guess they told him, he's like, I didn't want to, I didn't mean to. And everyone's like, Debbie, says my mom, your son could die tonight. How does that make you feel as a parent? Are you sure you allow him to do this? So she's bawling, crying. And I'm trying to work my reality team and be like, no, I totally got this. Where I was like 8 for 10 in the foam pit. So I'm like, I just always crashed the first one, which I didn't tell anybody. I was like, I just got to get past that one. We'll be all right. So you got all this dynamic going on. And I was like, I can't think of Matt Hoffman. I mean, he goes out and this guy, he's got that no hand in 9. He's got a video game that's coming out. He wants to be there. He wants to do it at the event. And I mean, I'll let you tell the story about the knee, but he gets experimental surgery without even going under. They're drilling through his leg and he's awake for it to come 2 weeks later to the X Games, do a trick that still like it isn't done, even with bigger, better ramps. Like I was like, I have to do it. I know I can do it and it's time to go.
Wow.
Sorry for that really long-winded.
You just literally filled me with so much knowledge that I didn't know, and I can't wait to hear more about the knee. But I mean, so did everybody know that, like, in the crowd, like the crowd was just so electric that night? Like, did you let the whole crowd know that you were going to try it?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty well.
It was the worst kept secret.
It was, okay.
Yeah.
I had just gone through major anxiety watching Kevin try to do like 10 double backflips and nearly wrecking himself or killing himself every flip. And I'm like, oh, whew, that's over. I'm still on the vert ramp. Like, Travis Pastrana going to do a double backflip. I'm like, what? No, that's not going to. What is going on?
Take your bronze.
Because it's just like so much energy, so much power that I just, I don't know. I was so nervous for you, Travis. And then when you did it, I was just like, okay, let's just say that's the last time. It's over. It's done.
You did it.
And I mean, now Josh Sheehan, he did a triple backflip almost 100 feet in the air. Like it progresses. But that night was the first time that the entire world, like I have so many people that come up to me and like, I was here when this happened. Like it was, I feel like everyone understood what I was going through. Everyone, the whole crowd was there. There's a picture and Chad Keggy and Kevin Robinson are holding hands as I'm jumping. Got, didn't matter if they're Metal Militia or my wife is actually in the picture in the background, Lindsay. I didn't know her at the time, but she's there, watching this thing. You got like Sandra Bullock. I mean, like everybody was there. It was pretty cool.
I mean, that's there. What was it like through your eyes, Tony?
Well, I obviously heard the rumblings that this was going to happen, and so I got a good seat or a good viewpoint up on the vert ramp, and I was just excited. I really didn't think I wasn't worried because I knew that I know how methodical Travis is, and I know that he'd been practicing it. I know he'd been doing it on foam pits, and so I didn't really fear for his safety, and I saw that they and correct me if I'm wrong, they modified the kicker ramp or they moved it closer. Is that right?
We added 2 feet on the top with like just wood blocks.
That was it. So when I saw that happening, I thought, all right, this whole thing is made for him to do it. It's going to happen. And it happened.
Were you up there with Salema?
Yes. You were right there, right?
Yeah.
That reaction shot.
I was posting it with my own camera.
What kind of camera? That's also funny looking back at the footage and just seeing all the cameras, and that was just like.
Yeah. I don't know. I had some pocket digital Canon, that shoots low res video. It was good enough for me. I mean, there was no social media to share it from, so I just had it to show friends.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty, like pre-social media, everybody was there, everybody was watching at one place, and I think that's the luxury of the era that you guys lived through, is that people were just so much more present and engaged at that moment versus now they're just like, oh, we'll just see it later. It's all right. No big deal. Then we'll watch some guy just launch over 10 school buses on a snowmobile and bounce off of it. And there's a million other things to see, but there was definitely, that era was just so exciting with all those moments. And Matt, you're no hand in 900. Can we get into that? Because that was also insane. And I got to hear more about the knee surgery that you had right 2 weeks before it.
Yeah, no hand 900. It was in my head for, maybe 9 months or so to a year before. And it just like, I would just be walking around my house and I'd just stop and I'd be like, and I just kind of feel the rotation, and people be like, what's wrong with you? You know? And I'm like, and I didn't really want to let it out or tell anybody what I was thinking, because I didn't know if I could do it. And I didn't want that expectation that if I said that I was going to do it, now I've got to try it, because who knows what's going to happen. So I just kind of kept it in my head for a while, and didn't even really, I didn't tell my wife or anybody. And so I was just there, and it just like, I was like, oh, it just felt like, okay, it's going to come out. Like, this is the perfect stage. It's the best, moment to kind of be able to really push it, success or failure. And that's what I told my wife when I was going up there. I was like, you know what's been in my head, and I want to try something new and different, but and the consequence. If I pull it, great, but if I don't, I'm probably not going to get back up. I'm going to be knocked out. But look at all of these people, and just know that I'll be taken care of. And I prefer if you just walk away, because our daughter was just like a year old. I was like, I don't want to permanently scar my daughter watching her dad just kind of be KO'd for the first time. And now there's been multiple times, so she's used to it. But
that's what you're thinking of, like.
But yeah, so then I just kind of dropped in, and I just I kind of did a setup air, took my hands off just to kind of set up, make sure that I'm centered, and then just I wanted a good 6-7 foot air and get a decent sweet pump off that, just to pop it. And when I popped the 900, I hit the lip a little bit hard. And so I was like, I felt like, oh man, I'm going to be like over rotating. And but I took my hands off, my bike just slowed down. I'm like, oh, hey, I'll just keep my hands off longer. So really, I think because I did a no-hand 900, I was able to pull it. I think if I didn't do it no-handed, I would have over rotated. So it kind of solved the problem. And
are you?
Yeah.
You were the gosh darn man, Matt.
It was fun, and I got to I didn't have someone waking me up going like, "Whoa, it was really cool what you did," but you can't ride for about a week now.
You didn't scar
That's what happened. Fast forward a few years later at the Boom Boom Huck Jam at Staples Center, and Matt tried a no-hand in 900, and that didn't go so well.
And it went
yeah.
So I bore witness to what happens when it goes badly.
Yeah, man.
That was a bummer. I don't want to dwell on that one.
Matt forgot it. He blocked that from his memory.
I know,
it did happen.
Oh, that's a good thing about losing your memories. You don't. Not all of them are good memories.
Yeah. So do you give advice now to like everybody on the Hoffman team? Just like, so if you're over rotating, take your hands off the bike and just slow down gravity. That's it.
Yeah, just a little physics, a little centrifugal force, kind of. You have to get like a physics degree to be on the team now.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, the knee thing. I actually did. I told this story, and my friend Taj Mihelich, he's one of the originator street just solo riders. Just one of those guys that's just influenced a lot of the style these days and stuff. And he did. He's an artist, and I told the story, and he made an animation and posted it on YouTube. So if you look up my name, and I think the name of the ligament was Lars, Lars ligament, you can kind of watch the story, and I can tell it but it's it's kind of funny, I guess.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to check that out, and everybody watching needs to check that out after. Tony, let's chat about the 900. I know you haven't chatted much about it since you've landed it. So really excited to hear your story about it. But let's start from the top. Like, before it happened, did you go into X Games in '99 thinking you were going to try it, or was it more spontaneous on the spot?
No, I had no intention of trying it. And I know there are all these conspiracy theories out there and whatnot, but I was trying 900 since 1989. That was the first time I ever really spun one. Mm-hmm. And through the years would sort of go back to it, try to do it a little further, get a little closer. And it wasn't until around 1995, 96 that I really started trying to make them, and put a couple down on the wall, broke my rib on one landing that I really thought I had. So after that, I kind of put it on the back burner. I didn't want to chase it that much anymore, because I realized the risks involved if I try to make it and what happens. And so when the X Games came around, it was the best trick event, and they had plenty of best trick events leading up to that at other events. And so in order to qualify for the best trick event at the X Games, you had to have placed in one of those. I always had some trick that I knew I could make that was maybe my best trick, but not one that I had never done. So going into the X Games, I obviously qualified for it. Going into it, my plan was I want to do a Varial 720 because I made one in my life, and I had a feeling that I could get it. I don't remember the time frame was. I think it was a half hour that they gave us. And so I thought in a half an hour, I should be able to make another one of these. And that was it. I mean, that was literally my best trick at the time. So about halfway into the event, I made it. And then I didn't really know what to do after that.
And that trick won the event, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was
top in the 900.
It was a little murky with how that worked because obviously what happened was, I don't remember this exactly, but some people say that Dave Duncan, who was announcing at the time, he is the one who suggested that I try a 900 because he had seen me try it a lot of times in the past, and he said, what about a 900? Now, and my first thought was, not that.
No, not again.
It's just
not my rib.
I've already paid my price, and then I tried one I really just tried it for the crowd. It was just like, oh, here's what it looks like.
Yep.
Without any intention of landing it, and then I tried it a couple more times, and something clicked in those times because my spin was consistent. And usually when I would try it, one spin was good, and then the next spin wasn't. And so I never had any consistent way to figure out how to land. And something about that ramp was fast enough and solid enough that it was giving me a consistent spin. So about into my 6th or 7th try, I was like, you know what? Why not just try to make it? I mean, if I'm ever going to get hurt on it, it's just like Matt said, like this is the place where everyone's going to see it, and I'm going to be taken care of. I might as well try to make it here, and started trying to put him down on the wall. The first one I tried to land, I leaned forward exactly like I did when I broke my rib, and I made it out alive. So I thought, well, I guess I can keep going. And
I can't believe
what's that?
I can't believe you were just trying them, like not even trying to land the first couple. You're just like, all right, I'm just gonna throw it, and then
there's definitely a threshold where you can sort of spin it and test it and kind of spot your landing, but not really,
and slide it out.
But then there's a moment where you have to commit, and that is really the demarcation for people who try 900s. It's like you could spin it all day, you go to your knees, but if you're really going to try to land on your board, that is a whole different level of technique and commitment.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, when I fully committed to it, I fell forward, but I was okay. And then I realized, what if I shift my weight more towards the back foot before landing, like during the spin? Maybe that'll remedy this problem that I've had. And when I did that, I fell backwards when I landed. Mm-hmm. And that was the moment when I knew I could do it, because I thought, well, I got to split the difference between that leaning forward, leaning backwards. And then I made the next one. And the time had already run out. I didn't care. Like I didn't think it was going to count. At this point, I've been chasing that trick for 10 years. I just wanted to make it once.
Was anyone else after the clock stopped, or was it just you and the whole crowd and Dave Duncan just hyping you up?
It was, I can't remember exactly. I think a few other skaters, especially like Colin and Bob, were trying things after the time, but I don't think they were chasing them that seriously. And then when they saw that I was getting close to it, everyone just kind of rallied around me, and it was really cool. I mean, I felt the support, I felt the camaraderie. I was honored that they were just letting me do it, and I was honored that they were all supporting me in it, because they all knew that the 900 wasn't just my goal; it was kind of the goal of skateboarding. Mm-hmm. There were a handful of us that were trying it. A few of us were getting close, but no one could figure it out. And so it was more this sort of collective effort on our behalf. And so when I made it, I didn't believe it. Like when I made it and I was riding up the next wall, there was still a sense of like, that didn't really happen. And I didn't accept it or believe it until I saw everyone rushing at me towards the ramp. And that's when it became real.
cannot imagine that feeling of just everyone. Like I've hit a couple of home runs in my day, and like everyone will come out of the dugout and put me on their shoulders, but that's like that times infinity. Travis, Matt,
it's weird though. I mean, it's also like Matt knows this. There have been other milestones in our sports that happened not in front of a crowd, that happened, maybe with one camera and just a few people, including like my first 720 was on a backyard ramp in Sweden with 5 people there. No video, no celebration. Matt's first 900 was at a bike event with a relatively small crowd. I mean, Matt was the first one to do 900 on a vert ramp. We got to give it up for that. But it wasn't.
I can hold on to something though.
What's that?
I can hold on to something. I didn't have to land it no-handed.
Yeah, but still, my point is that we were doing this for no appreciation other than our peers. And when suddenly we're thrust into that bigger venue, it didn't really change the attitude or the incentive. It just was a bigger crowd that saw it, and maybe people that never had seen, like in my case, that never seen skateboarding, that thought that was cool. And I was really excited. Like after that, I would get recognized in airports, and that had never happened to me.
Were they saying like, "Oh, you kind of look like Tony Hawk"?
No, not back then. I looked more like what they thought I'd look like. I was only 31 at the time, so when I would get recognized by I would get recognized by pedestrians. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
And that had never happened. So it was just like, oh, Tony Hawk 900. So it kind of changed everything for me.
Culmination of a perfect storm, man. And there's got to be like strategy back then too to like save your trick for an X Games moment with that platform. But I can't imagine that being easy. Because
that's the thing. It wouldn't have happened if I had really tried to plan it like that. It had to be spontaneous in the way that it happened, or else I would have felt too much pressure.
Yep, exactly. Where were you guys, Trav and Matt? Do you remember when Tony landed the 900?
Yeah, I was stuck on the side of the road trying to get from a race to the X Games.
No.
That moment differentiates. People say, why is action sport so amazing? Like, what makes these sports so great? And it's the camaraderie. It's the fact that you're competing against each other technically for medals and prize money and stuff, but that's not what makes action sports. Action sports is a group that pushes themselves, pushes the limit of the human spirit. And for everyone, I mean, after time, every one of the guys that should be rooting against Tony and saying, no, hey, it's after time, they were there banging their boards, cheering, the energy of the crowd. Like, this is what makes action sports awesome. And that moment was like such a key factor in like just for the world to see that these guys, it's not about money or TV time or whatever, but that was cool because X Games, before social media, like if you had something that was big, like no one got to see all the practice. No one got to see anything. It wasn't like you had to post every day. Like you waited all year and you're in the Super Bowl. If you're in the X Games, you are in the Super Bowl and you have a chance to win in 1 second and make it happen.
It's so true.
I was having dinner with Perry Farrell, and and he was talking to me about he was talking to me about he was going to do a new music festival. He's going to call it Jubilee, and he was going to.
I remember that. Yeah,
doing like the Middle East or whatever, and then all the war broke up
in Israel.
Nothing got to happen, but we were like dreaming up all the. He was asking me to just dream up some like activities, like we're gonna have camels and we're gonna do like golfing on camels or just goofy stuff. It's just like an open book of just ridiculousness we could do, and but man, I mean that was pretty good. But I came back and I heard the firestorm of just the history that went down and what I missed back on the home ranch.
Yep.
When my grandma, I got back from X Games that year, and she's like, yeah, Tony Hawk, that skateboarder is amazing. And I'm just thinking, my grandma was like 75 at the time, had just watched, in all like sincerity, loved watching skateboarding and knew Tony Hawk's name. So for me, that was like such a win for just sports in general.
Grandma knows it's a win. Tony, were there any other moments that you feel like got shadowed at X Games because of the 900? Were there any other like milestone moments that like stick out in your mind that you're kind of
Well, just in that best trick event alone, where some crazy things happen. I mean, just with the skate events, you know, got Colin, I think he did backside tailside big spin in, and Bob did some crazy fakie grind kickflip in. But I think that the moments that stand out for me through the years are obviously Travis and Matt's, Deegan's 360, Dave Mira's double flip, Kevin's double flare. There are so many. I can't. And even the tricks on the big air ramp too.
What's it like for you?
I mean,
guys?
we just saw 1260 last year.
I know that 1260. Honestly, it's just like that was insane.
And for anyone that says the big ramps or whatnot, like that's not somehow that's easier, because I hear that a lot where people say, "Oh, well, he did a 1080, but it was on the big ramp," and I'm like,
What?
let me tell you something. I've ridden both ramps.
Yeah.
There's nothing easier about a 28-foot quarter pipe
Totally.
and going 15 feet above it, spinning to oblivion. That is not easier. That is far more dangerous.
Totally.
Sure, you get more time in the air if you know what the hell you're doing, but I give those guys all the credit. Like, that is some of the most dangerous and most incredible feats of skateboarding that's ever happened, way up high in those big air ramps.
Jake Brown and Danny Way that year was like, I actually was on top of the moto roll-in watching Jake Brown when he came up. So moto roll-in's 20 foot tall, like it's high, and it's 8 feet or whatever, like quite a ways below the takeoff for where Jake took off, and he went 20 feet above that. So you're looking, you know, you're 3 stories in the air looking up, you know, and
flat.
So how many stories up, and he lands and he just goes limp. And I've never walked out, didn't want to see, and then I saw him that night. He's at the after party, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how does this work? And then Danny Way having all, like, just pounding himself, and then landing at I mean, some of the greatest moments. And that's when Danny Way jumped the Great Wall of China. That's where, for me, being just kind of a big air base jump, like wanting to see the moto side, that's when I started to relate to skateboarding. Not to, like, I don't know if it's less technical or whatever, but like just that to me elevated the whole game. So it's really cool to see that competition, how I know it's different than street skating and whatever, but it really made kind of my peer group go, oh, wow, they're going so much higher than we can go on dirt bikes on a quarter pipe. This is ridiculous.
Totally. And like Jagger Eaton, you know, he used to compete in it when he was a kid, and then he's like, all right, I'm switching to street because it's just too gnarly. Like, this is just way too crazy. I mean, the fact that like you land off the big air ramp and then you're going in with no brakes alone is insane. And like, even in snowboarding where I come from, like so many of the quarter pipe events got canceled because so many people were getting hurt on them, including myself, with like a 35-foot air and landed on the deck on my butt. And that really hurt. Kind of still does. I'm probably sitting off the beat. But
I do think, but what Travis was saying, I do think Jake's fall changed the game a bit, because everyone realized they had been chasing what they thought was the sort of never-ending quest for bigger airs. And it was like, all right, you guys, we're going 20 feet above this almost 30-foot quarter pipe. Like, that's enough.
Yep.
Let's explore what we can do with that height, with something under that height, and how many spins or what kind of board maneuvers we can do. And that's when they really started to focus more on technical tricks in that zone. And that's how we got Mitchy Briscoe doing a 1260.
Yeah, well, I mean, Matt was the pioneer of that whole thing. I mean, Matt, you died going for a height record, towed in by a dirt bike.
Ain't nothing to be proud of, Russ.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I didn't forget about that, but it was more that Matt's feat was as monumental and as progressive as it was. It just wasn't seen on the scale of what the X Games were. We actually used that footage in our very first Birdhouse video of Matt doing his big air, because I just thought it was the biggest thing in any of our world.
Yeah,
I mean, what was it? It was 20 feet, right?
That's right there.
Yeah, I was getting. I forget how. I think. I remember that. I brought a photo to you. We were doing a show, like a fair show together, like back in.
Oh, Michigan State Fair.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I remember doing a show and bringing the. I was like, oh, I get to show Tony, and Tony's like the first person I really got to show that I built this ramp, and I had. Yeah, was that right? Wait, okay, yeah, but we did a show before that too. Because I remember I remember I was driving back and I was going to build. Oh yeah, I was going to build the half pipe after that, and I was driving back, and then my semi broke in two, and I lost all my money I got from the show, so I didn't get to do. I had to borrow the wood, you know. I think I probably had to pay the karma back with my spleen, but yeah, that was 92. So that's kind of like, that's before X Games. So that's before we really had like a stage like that to stand on. And we just, I mean, and it's like Tony was saying, it was back then we would do new things for like, I don't even know if anybody was there. I think my sister was there. She took a photo of it with a camera because we didn't have even phones, you know, like phone cameras and stuff. But yeah, so it was a different era of our world for sure.
And it's crazy how far it's gone. I mean, watching R. Willie backflip into the ramp this year, like, what was your guys' reaction watching him do that?
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like somehow the bikes got weightless. I don't understand how that movement happened. I see those guys doing flares on tiny ramps, and I just don't. It doesn't connect. It's like they're throwing around some featherweight vehicle.
Yep.
So
yeah, like they're on a broomstick. That's exactly it. Yes.
Well, R. Willie comes on Australian on Nitro Tour, and he's doing all these world firsts, and all the BMX guys, the moto guys. Oh yeah, whatever, scooter kid, whatever, scooter kid. So Andrew Ahumada, we call him Mini. He broke his collarbone or something in the show, and R. Willie didn't even say anything. He does a world's first on a scooter. It was the 720 front flip back, years ago, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's on a scooter." So he jumps on, and Mini's bike is brakeless, following after Matt Hoffman. You nut dropping in that freaking big ramp with no brakes. That's a whole different story. But so he drops in and does a 720 front flip that had never been done. Like no one even done 360 front flip, or basically Daniel Dares, maybe it was kind of that I forget what the trick's called, but so the cash roll, or what is it? So he drops in the train. So he's got wheels in front of him and a guy on a mountain bike behind him, and he does a 720 front flip on a bike that he just picked up from a guy that had got hurt with no brakes and lands it. And then we're like, "Why did you do that?" You're like, "This is awesome. You should be a BMX rider." But the scooter guys, it's really changed kind of the level, because they can, it's kind of like that not beginner step, but it's lighter, and they can work out everything on how to do it. It's kind of like being in a foam pit or a trampoline, and then they're taking it to mountain or to BMX, and now mountain bikes. When they take it to moto, I'm just done.
Yeah. I mean, R. Willie's whole story of just how he was like, all right, if scootering's not in X Games, I'm going to learn how to BMX at the top level, and then I'm going to get my entire fan base to start trolling X Games until they let me in. And then, of course, he shows up and wins, and now is on top. So what an insane story. But with we're at 44 minutes, why don't we quickly chat about like just the future? Like, I would love to hear what you guys think about where the future of X Games is going and your guys' sports. Can you even answer that?
Well, I think just in a general sense, our sports continue to evolve and progress, and you see so many firsts at X Games, whether it inspires people to do something for the first time or they save it for that moment. But it continues to happen. That's my point. I mean, like I said, we saw Michi Briscoe do a 1260 last year. We've seen so many firsts in moto and BMX, and I think that will continue to happen. The thing that I appreciate about X Games is that they continue to support vert skating, because vert skating has taken a backseat to park skating recently, because park skating is in the Olympics, which I understand all the reasons why, but I think that people forget that the things that are happening on vert ramps are way crazier and way more technical than the things that are happening in park skating. They're two totally different disciplines, and I'm not trying to bash one for the other, but I think that X Games recognizes that, and they applaud it and they celebrate it every time. And they're even going to, from what I understand, have a vert contest coming up here pretty soon.
Backyard.
Obviously not with a crowd, but that says a lot, and I appreciate it.
My wife's hoping you bring back women's vert skating to X Games if you're listening.
Awesome. I also love what you're doing, Tony. I just saw you posted something about doing like a master class revolving around vert.
Well, I did a master class about skateboarding and about my career, but so that is sort of there's specific lessons in skating, but also just in terms of history of skating and strategies and inspiration. But Masterclass sponsored a best trick event, so that's a separate thing. And I think I literally just posted the first video right before I got on this call. So we have a awesome group of men and women doing their best vert tricks, and I think it's going to open some eyes to what's really possible in the vert spectrum. I mean, you could go check it out right now. I put it on my Instagram, and we already have a couple of NBDs in the bag.
Nice. I can't wait to check it out. And I'd love to hear from Travis and Matt as well. But I just want to say it's just so like amazing that you guys continue to put skateboarding and BMX and FMX and action sports just in the spotlight. Like whatever it is that you guys are doing, you can continue to support it and encourage growth. And so just wanted to jump in and give you guys all a shout out. It's pretty awesome to see. What about you guys? What about Travis? What's the future hold?
There's no limit. And, I feel like, like Tony said, with the Olympics, and X Games and Nitro is kind of like what I've started with Nitro Circuit is just like the big air of action sports. So we're working a lot with safer landings and bigger takeoffs. I mean, Josh Sheehan, so at X Games, the takeoffs are 9 foot tall. Josh Sheehan had a 44-foot tall takeoff and a 65-foot tall landing. It was about 100 feet in the air to get a triple backflip around. And the guys are getting that lower now at about a 28-foot takeoff ramp. So obviously there's not many people that want to do those, the Matt Hoffmans of the world, if you will. But for me, it's always about progression and progression through safety. So, now seeing so many of the next generation coming up, and I think it's pretty cool to have, X Games where everyone can understand what the ramps are. This is going to be these are the ramps, these are the specs. Everyone's on a really fair playing field. And then also to be pushing it to where I enjoy. I don't want to ever land to a landing again, but I did a double backflip 360 on a motorcycle to an airbag landing. Like close enough, it hurt crashing, but like I just want to see what's possible. And if anyone wants to take that to dirt, go for them. If you don't want to, that's not real. I don't care. It was super fun. So for me, it's just to keep having fun on my dirt bike and just watching Matt. Like anyone follow Matt on Instagram, like every day there's a new clip of just shredding. I'm like, this is awesome. Like you give me hope, man. Like I feel more beat up, but you guys, I mean, Tony's still lit and never been done. NBD, is that what you said? World's first, whatever you call it.
Dude, that was insane.
Not in the air, but that's okay.
Yeah, I couldn't even make out with that. That was mind blowing. That flippity dippity craziness.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
love it. What about you, Matt? I mean, I know you're super involved being the sports comp organizer. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing. It's like sticking with X Games and inspiring all the next generations. I mean, what's the goal for you?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's like Travis and Tony said, it's really contingent on the imagination of the talent, and so it's really there's no limits. I mean, and every year everything that we kind of think maybe this is going to happen, it's always pushed even further than that. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, if maybe in the future, if like the moon would host the X Games, I think fans would be a little bit less impactful. And
I'll make a comeback for that one.
Me too.
Bigger, So yeah, I think, I don't know, just trying to put a little seed in someone's ear. Maybe in the future we'll see that.
I love it, man. Well, the list goes on, and you're all constantly encouraging and supporting like all your fellow peers and all the athletes, whether they're on top or if they're up and coming. But I would just love to know like why it's so important to you guys to continue to use your platforms to keep encouraging growth in the sport, especially with like the athletes specifically. Like it's like
well,
that
I think that
Elliot Sloan. It's just cool.
Well, I think that we all have the benefit of having lived through the slowest of times in our sports, and to appreciate all the opportunity and all of the support that is there now for what we do, and to at the very least give some perspective to the new generation on how lucky they are, but also how they might have some responsibility to carry that torch.
Totally.
And not to make them pressured or anything, but just to give them a roadmap on how we made it work without any help.
And they're so lucky to have you. I mean, that Sky Brown, like you taking Sky under your arm, is so cool to watch. How's she doing, by the way? Last time I chatted with you, it was like right when you got the news, and it was just like,
oh yeah, she's back skating. That is the closest thing I've seen to a miracle.
oh man, did you see
the fact that she got full recovery from one of the heaviest slams, worst case scenario, head injury, broken wrist. I just saw a clip of her skating yesterday.
It's insane. Yeah, even like right after she got hurt, just like how inspirational she was. It was like right after surgery, and she's just like, I just want to show people that it's okay to fall and to come back. And I'm just like, I love you.
Yeah, that was a bit unnerving. I don't know about that, but I'm glad to see her doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, to close this out, what are you guys working on right now? How can we support? How can everybody watching support what you guys are working on? Travis, we'll start with you. I saw you're working on a lot as usual.
I have a lot of stuff. I had the busiest year of my life on paper, doing the whole Rally Association Championship for Rally, starting not a new sport with Rallycross, but with Nitro Rallycross, trying to get some big jumps, some Talladega rights and lefts, full video game spec rally cars, just to show what can be done and try to take what we've learned through X Games and through jumping to make it into cars, and to where I kind of want to go with now, like Matt, everyone understands, but the injuries, I can still do that fairly competitively. So that's been a lot of fun, and definitely it's been challenging. So with actually racing boats as well, offshore power boats for Team Miss Kaiko. So I was about to do my first test. I got signed up for the biggest, baddest offshore powerboat team, 180 miles an hour. It's going to be amazing. I'm just a steering guy. Someone else will have the throttle. So he's like 13-time world champion. So I just try not to flip us, I guess. But I'll figure it out.
180 miles an hour? Try not to flip.
Yeah, so offshore. Yeah, full on. It's going to be great. I hope. It's going to be exciting. My wife's just excited because we get to spend a couple of weeks this year at beaches, or she'll be at the beach and I'll be driving by real fast. So that stuff's been good. But at the end of the day with Nitro Circus and just trying to keep the passion going, man, and giving kids an opportunity that I had to travel the world doing what I love to do. So now with everything that's going on, it sucks that, X Games is not going this year. That's why we're kind of all here. But the passion's still there, and I think everyone had a lot of chance to really spend some time with their families. So I'm taking that with the most positive. I would have been on the road for the last 2 months, and I've been 2 months with my wife Lindsay, who's X Games gold medalist, and our 2 little kids, and it's been just an amazing time to watch them skateboarding and bicycling and go-karting, and it's been a really really great experience to actually be a father and be home.
I'm sure they appreciate it so much to finally have dad home all the time. It's like our first break in our entire lives, man. So it's definitely a silver lining. What about you, Matt? How can we support? How can the fans?
I've been
following on Instagram and watching your epic clips daily.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, well, I just been working hard and having fun like we all do, and just it's given me time to really just polish up my house, and just kind of build new ramps and just get everything dialed in. And so really, I may never leave my house after this pandemic.
Yeah, right. I know. Just like I realize how nice it is to be home, but I do miss getting back on the road for sure. Tony, here you're working on some sort of video game re-release.
Yeah, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster, coming out in September. If you pre-order, you can get a preview of the warehouse level before that, just like in the old school Pizza Hut promotion, if anyone's that old and remembers that.
I am.
But other than that, just, I'm still doing Birdhouse skateboards and Tony Hawk Foundation, helping public skate parks in underserved areas. We are changing the name of the foundation soon, but we are still doing the same work, and we've helped to fund over 900 skate parks now. And I think that there are still a lot more cities that need these types of facilities, and so we have a lot more work to do.
Yeah, I got to personally thank you. I live in Burlington, Vermont, and you guys came in and set up the sickest concrete skate park ever here. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to commend you on adding like current skateboarders to the re-release. I just saw you posted like a whole lineup of.
Oh yeah, that's really exciting. Yeah, Leo Baker and Tyshawn and Nija, Letitia. We're really excited to have a new crew there. That's
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time. The absolute legends. That was full of inspiration and great memories. And thank you to the fans that watched. We got the X Games 25th anniversary show airing tonight on ESPN2 at 6. And it's followed by a recap of the OG 1995 Extreme Games and a special dedicated to Tony Hawk's First 900 show. So a lot on ESPN2 tonight. Much love, boys. Thanks for all that you do for action sport. Yeah. From the early days to now to the future, you guys are the best.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. We'll catch you soon.